All right, so 24 hours ago, I released a video talking about Game Pass and how I attributed some of the failings of these games towards Game Pass. Now, a number of you have taken, some of you have taken severe offense against this. Some of you actually saw it my way, and others have decided that I am to be regarded as a PlayStation fanboy because despite the fact that, as you can see from here, I mean, apparently none of this matters. Having one video go completely against the run of the crop, none of this seems to matter. Just one video is what it took for me to fall out of favor with some of you and become a PlayStation fanboy, which honestly actually hurt me, because I think I've done and demonstrated enough to show that even though I do enjoy my PlayStation 5, I am way more aligned towards, you know, Microsoft and Xbox than I am with anything else. Right? I think these videos here prove it, right? There's nothing really here that's for PlayStation. Outside of my demo review for Final Fantasy 16. I'm a big Final Fantasy fanboy. I'm not gonna, you know, deny that. I like Final Fantasy. This is the PlayStation fan, the Spider-Man leaker. Leaks Spider-Man 2. And I'm not showing you anything that is leaking. This is like from, you know, December 12th. So there's nothing here that can be regarded as a leak. I'm only showing this. That this is the dude who basically has been covering Spider-Man 2 leaks heavily, who leaked everything for Spider-Man 2. And it's a PlayStation fanboy that has gone about and leaked everything. It wasn't Andrea. Andrea just got it off this person. The root leaker was a PlayStation fanboy. But we come to this video here, the one that I released. Is Game Pass destined to forever 85? Is Game Pass the problem? Let's discuss. And a number of you, found this video really hard to stomach or to listen to, and I can totally understand. But a lot of what I said was misconstrued as well. Now, I've gotten quite a lot of really negative comments, some quite harsh in my opinion, but I also respect people's opinions. But to turn around just because of this one video and say that I'm a pony or I'm a PlayStation fanboy, I think is a little disingenuous. I think it's unfair, right? I get some of you might not like to hear. Sorry, I'm really tired today. I've had 2 hours sleep since Friday, suffering from a bit of insomnia. But it is so, you know, I made this video yesterday and I thought, you know, it's 30 minutes long. I'll go through it on stream, and then if anyone has any questions that they want to ask or points that they want to interject, they can do that. And we've got the comment section on the screen as well, so when I upload this video later, people can actually follow on with context. So it goes, this is a non-issue. Games have been getting better, and I'm surprised that we are all acting like mid-80s are bad games. Now, I've never said, I didn't, at least, in fact, once in my video say that mid-80 is a bad game. I just said that if they want to go above and beyond and get to that 90, games need to be releasing feature complete. Now, I actually have the article in a few screens later that actually shows that the producer of Forza said that the split screen will not be ready for launch. At the moment he comes out and says that, the game is feature incomplete. Also, as we found out with Forza on its own, the career mode is bare bones. It's coming at a later date. They're going to be adding to it. So there's that as well. So that's actually released incomplete as well. But let's continue with what I'm saying here. I said I'm not saying mid-80 is bad. I'm saying if they spent a few more months and releasing feature complete, for us as consumers, it would be better. So I'm not looking at this from a ratings point of view here yet. I'm just looking at it from a consumer point of view. Because don't forget, right? If it's on Game Pass, I'm not really paying anything extra for it. So whether it releases feature incomplete or not, it doesn't really impact me as much. But if you went and paid 70 quid for the game, then that's going to impact you, right? Why would you want to pay 70 quid? Now, I know the notion that, you know, people are going to say, well, games have been doing that for a while. Yes, but why shouldn't we expect better? And in other cases where they can delay, with Game Pass, it's getting more difficult for them to delay. But I'll get to that in a bit. I'm on Xbox enjoying Game Pass already, bought 613 games. This dude is a legend. I think that we, as consumers, have played a part in this. We demand bigger, prettier, better physics, lighting, etc. and we want it now. I call it the Burger King syndrome. I want it my way. With tech rapidly advancing, it's hard for developers to keep up and deliver a constant stream of content that will meet fans' expectations. We are so accustomed to getting what we want in short timeframes that we often don't realize that there's a lot of work in some of these games that are below eye level. As a musician, I have run into this plenty of times. People think if a song is 5 minutes that we wrote, arranged and recorded in 5 minutes, not seeing all the alternate parts we wrote, discarded, rehearsed, etc. for as reviews. I don't bother. If I'm interested in a game, I'll buy it. Fair enough. Again, another one saying I don't care for reviews. The more studios they have, the more patience in delivering a game. Now, I understand what you're saying there, but that's not generally the case. The real issue is that Microsoft takes a too hands-off approach to game development. They do. I don't think they should be as hands-on as Sony. No one thinks they should be that. But they need to start not only holding developers accountable, but also support studios that need help. I agree, and that's what they did with Starfield. Arcane Austin wanted and needed Microsoft to interfere with development of Redfall, but received little to no support at all. This is incorrect. Arcane did want support from Phil Spencer to cancel the game, right? But they were not allowed to make any communication with Microsoft Game Studios, Phil Spencer, or anyone. ZeniMax at the time made sure that no staff, they basically implemented a gagging order and all staff had to agree to it, that they were not allowed to contact Microsoft Game Studios regarding Redfall. So they actually had a gagging order from high up within ZeniMax, so they couldn't do it. So this statement here is incorrect. Hands-off approaches only work when you're 100% sure the studio doesn't need any assistance. I disagree with the Starfield take. The game was supposed to release in 2021. That is correct. The whole loading thing is a design choice, and it's also a bad design choice. That was probably set in stone in year 2, more than likely, probably further before that as well. Games are getting mid-80s because of anti-Xbox for clicks. See, Forza, in my opinion, disproved that. Now, Starfield definitely was review bombed 100%, but I'm not really seeing the review bombing for Forza. What I'm seeing for Forza is that the reviewers are saying that these features like career mode is missing. As such, where is the game? And they have every right to say that, right? A 90 score only when Microsoft buys IGN. As a developer, and I really... okay, this is actually a really long statement, as you can see, but he goes into a lot of stuff here, touches some very edgy stuff as a developer as well that he really shouldn't be getting into, but let's go through it. As a developer, and I rarely ever qualify anything this way, you're lucky if a game even hits the market. Granted, I'm saying that even more as a tester. So he works in QA, just like I do. This is just the nature of modern development. There's two primary issues at play for developers. It's a contract job. So the job is over once the game is released, unless the publisher committed to continuing development post-launch. There's no incentive beyond release date to continue working on a game otherwise. All games are basically released unfinished because of this. have no opinion of whether or not Game Pass exacerbates this issue or not. I don't know. So what he's saying here is games are deliberately released unfinished, so people that are actually on a contract can extend their job, extend their contracts so they still have a job. That's an interesting take. Publishers pay for development. Faults can lie with developers, however, it's generally always out of the developer's control. It's important to keep in mind that the people talking about their game, generally speaking, had zero to do with the actual development of the game. Developers are often locked out of even speaking upon their games due to their contracts. This is 100% true, right? Developers have no say in the matter. The suits make all the decisions. Because it's a contract, it's based on the contract between the publisher and the developer. Need to be careful with how I'm saying this, but from a publisher standpoint, what matters is revenue. A publisher isn't going to support a game post-launch unless the game is profitable to do as such. Now, for those of you that remember a game called Anthem by BioWare, I'm sure many of you remember it. It released in a horrible, horrible state, right? So the story of that goes like this, because I actually know this through, as I knew one of the shareholders that were actually, within EA. So it basically goes along the roads of this. The shareholders turned around and said, look, we need this to release this game. Now, the original delay came along. BioWare said, we need to delay this because we're not ready. So the CEO went and spoke to the shareholders, and the shareholders agreed for a delay. That was the delay until, the final delay that we got. BioWare then went along and said, okay, look, I know we've run out of time, but we still need another delay because the game isn't ready. It's broken. It's not ready for launch. The CEO saw this at the time and said, you know what, you're right. So they went to the shareholders and said, look, the game isn't ready. And so the shareholders turned around and said, we don't care. If you do not release the game now, we're going to withdraw our funding and you will be in the red and have, a mountain to climb out of. You either release the game now so we can make our monies from those pre-orders, which is why people tell you not to pre-order, because as soon as those greedy shareholders see those pre-orders, that's money in the bag. So because they saw all those pre-orders for Anthem, they said, you need to release this game, broken or not, we don't care, we want our money. Once we got our money, we'll give you some more to fix the game. That's why Anthem was released broken, because all they care about is a return on interest. Because it's a contract, it's based on the contract between the publisher and the developer. And by all means, the shareholders don't care what state the game is in. All they care about is the profits they're making. Anthem's a fantastic game, Wayne's World. Need to be careful with how I'm saying this, but from a publisher standpoint, okay, we said it. This may or may not be known pre-launch to the publisher. Would assume Game Pass aids the funding post-launch rather than hampers it. Correct. Developers have to be paid to develop. While it isn't taught that employees are a cost, they are a cost even when, if viewed legally speaking, as contractors. If you've paying 20 people $50,000 a year, that's over $1 million a year you're paying for them. This cost adds up really fast. The plus is, because outside of contractors you're paying additional taxes on employees' wages and whatnot. Even with contractors, there's additional costs, though I'm not teaching a class right now. Would go on, but what I'm basically hitting at is budget with this. It's likely Business 101 subject matter. If you have a product or service, it has to be profitable enough to maintain the company to evolve. Else, what happens? The developer or development shuts down. I'm not going to list off the numerous companies I've done work for that went bankrupt, but it happens far more than the majority of people are aware. Now, this is the part that's interesting, that hits the nail on the head. If you have a product or a service, it has to be profitable enough to maintain the company to evolve. Now, Game Pass is a service. It's a subscription service that needs you to remain subscribed in order for them to get your money so they can fund the service. If you stop paying for your subscription, they're losing money. And if enough people stop paying for their subscription, the subscription collapses and Game Pass dies. How can they keep Game Pass going? Easy. By releasing a game, as Phil Spencer says, every quarter. He's committed to this, and that is what he wants to do. Now, if he doesn't release a game every quarter, at least a first-party game, well, then he runs into a problem, because he needs those games to come out in order for the game, for the service to be attractive to new people and to retain the old people. Hence why we had games like Redfall come out in the state they did. They fully well knew that that game was not in a good state to release, but releasing it on Game Pass means that they can release it now and fix it later. It took them 6 months, but they fixed it. The half-baked problem is more widespread than Game Pass. It is. But because of the way the Game Pass model works, if they want to retain and bring in new people, whether the game is fully complete or not is irrelevant. They need to push that game out every quarter to attract new customers. Otherwise, they could delay the game until it's ready. But they can't do that because they need to release the game every quarter now. We've got 4 games pretty much coming out next year that we assume we know what they are. Avowed, Hellblade, what was the other 2? Can't think off the top of my head. But as you can see, these are coming. Starfield expansion is, I guess, going to be one of them. But they kind of have to stick to this in order to maintain interest throughout the year. Otherwise, people will unsubscribe. So even if it's not ready, they're just going to push it out. Because they have to. That's how a subscription service works. They need that carrot there in order for you to be able to pick it up. Unlike other companies who release games broken deliberately because of their shareholders, in this situation, if Game Pass wants to remain attractive and invite people to try the service, they kind of need to constantly be releasing those first-party games onto the service. I grew up with a Commodore 64 cassette deck. Me too, buddy. Me too. The Last Ninja was amazing. So was SWAT. Would come on the cassette back. They also came on cartridges. I had a football game on there. It was legendary. Back then, games were finished. I bet some people in this chat don't even know what that is. What about the unannounced games from Asian studios they're working with? Those are third-party games, right? Unless they actually are Microsoft Studios, then that will also be added to the list. But if they're third party, it doesn't count towards the list that they're going with. Split screen for Forza was never promised. It was said by Turntender it would not be present for launch. If you turn around and tell me that it's not going to be present for launch, here we go. And since we're on the topic of some legacy features that aren't in at launch, Isaki continued, our heavy investment in pushing the new graphics, overhaul of rendering engine, unfortunately made split screen really difficult to implement, and it's not going to be in for launch. That means it was always planned to be there, right? I don't care that we don't have split screen, because 99% of people don't have it. But the moment you make this sort of a statement, the game is incomplete. So any reviewer that's coming along will highlight this and say, hey guys, look, this could have been a 10 out of 10, but it's missing features. And now we found out that, the career mode is missing, pretty much the career mode in there. The pit stops are kind of not working the way people want it to. But there's a few issues there, right? But if you turn around and say it's not going to be in for launch, but it's coming later, it means it was always planned to be there. That was the point I was trying to make with Forza. Not that I was shitting on it, because it graphically looks amazing, right? Anyway, the issues are the Sony reviewers knocking things down for being a car game or not liking Bethesda as a company in general. A reviewer quotes, I am not a fan of racing games, Forza gets a 75. He's not a fan of racing games and still gives it a 75, right? So that means it's actually pretty decent. If I'm not a fan of racing games, First thing first, he shouldn't be reviewing it. That's the honest truth. If you're not a fan of it, why are you reviewing it? Give it to someone that is a fan of racing games. But 75 still isn't a bad score, especially for someone who doesn't like racing games. I would more expect that review to be somewhere in the 50s, but 75 for someone who does not like racing games is not a bad score. I don't think the state of the game matters if the new review sites are biased against Microsoft. There is a sense of that, right? That there is always going to be that bias. Will the game still get 85? Now, had Forza had the career mode implemented, and the other features implemented, and mentioned co-op, I mean, they could have just ignored mentioning split screen, but they mentioned it. But had it had everything included, do you think that there was a chance that it could have got a 90? I think yes, personally yes. I think it could have. Because the negative reviews that I've seen all talk about the fact that it's missing those features. Career mode, split screen, racing tracks that were said to be in the game that are not in the game, but they're coming at a later date. I think all of these attribute to it. Could Forza have been delayed for another 2-3 months? With all the games coming out in September and October and November, did Forza really need to come out right now? Not at all. But they still wanted to push it out because Game Pass needed that fourth quarter game. And that's where the buck stops. Do you think we will hear something from the CMA tomorrow? I think we're going to hear something on Friday the 13th. The loss of split screen in general was a loss for gamers. J-Gaming Remasteration 6, that's hilarious. I mean, it's Repay Station. What do you think they're going to give? I don't even look at those reviews. I don't think Redfall was pushed out just for Game Pass. It was pushed out for Xbox in general. No, I think it was pushed out for Game Pass. That's my opinion. You're free to disagree with it. We just came off a year of having no first-party games releasing for real. Delay after delay. Redfall couldn't have been delayed without even more backlash. Why would you purposefully release a game that didn't need to be released if it was in such a bad state? It's not like people saw Anthem and Cyberpunk and said, hey, look, those games were released and look at how popular they were at release. Said no one ever. Yeah, I'm aware of the butt cheeks over there. I think this is a product of Xbox releasing games that they didn't have. So they came out rushed. Xbox was playing catch up, and moving forward, these first party games should be complete coming into Game Pass. I believe polished games coming from Xbox are coming. They are. And don't forget, like, I may have my criticisms of Starfield. I still think it's my game of the year. I also believe it's my game of the generation. I really, really enjoy it every time I jump into it. I also feel that a lot of the limitations within Starfield are because development started about 15 years ago, right? So there's a lot of things that hampered Starfield in doing what it wanted to do. So with Starfield, you've got to take quite a bit into consideration. You're nitpicking with Starfield. The game was delayed to allow that level of polish. And I said, I nitpicked with every game to prove a point. Starfield is still my game of the year, regardless, as I've never loved playing a game as much as that. But I still stand by my points made here regarding all games mentioned. Now, people spoke about Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment. Did any of you know about Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment until they were shadow dropped? Anyone at all? Did any one of you know that they even existed, were in development? That is my question. I'll come back to that once chat responds to it. Game should release feature complete no matter whether your game on Game Pass or buying it. If you can't release feature complete, they should keep it in the oven till it's done. Agreed. But in the case of Game Pass, it's a different business model, so they can't do that. It's kind of silly to think Game Pass is the cause of those games releasing like that. The studios and publishers still want to release the games great games because their names are on the line. If people like these games, they will buy them, and they won't buy broken games. They don't have to be broken. Forza is not broken, it's just feature incomplete. There's missing stuff in the game, for example. Does it look graphically amazing? Yes. Will you enjoy playing it? Yes. Should you play it? Absolutely. Will they add those career mode features in very soon? Maybe even by day one patch. So we'll see. Why would they miss out on that money? Good question. Turn 10 is responsible for how the game came out. No, they're not. They developed the game. Microsoft, Phil Spencer is the one that dictates when the game is launched. Turn 10 cannot dictate when the game is launched. It's their choice that the game was released the way it was. No, it is not. Phil Spencer approves the release of Forza, and that is it. They give Phil a report, Phil then weighs it up, and then releases it. It's that simple. And then they say basically you shouldn't compare it to Forza Motorsport 7, but we've just seen that the producer himself said that this was supposed to be in the game, and they didn't have time to do it. They've worked on this game for 6 years. I'm not sure at the end of the day you can blame Game Pass because Microsoft put huge investment into this game. And yet they chose to release it in a state that was feature incomplete and potentially damaged future sales, right? Because these reviews are going to come out, and the moment people start seeing that career mode isn't there yet, it's not fleshed out, it's not ready, people are not going to buy it. So why spend 6 years working on a game and then purposely push it out when it didn't need to come out? Hence, Game Pass requiring that fourth quarter game. And there's nothing else there to take its place. Team November, it could be the case. That could very well be the case. What did I say? So I said it's a mixed bag, right? If Microsoft didn't have to deliver on their 4 games per year, would Forza have come out? Or Redfall have come out? I'm sure everyone at Microsoft knew the state. Someone must have played it, but they needed something on the service. And we already saw Phil Spencer playing the game, right? On Xbox. We've seen him playing it, so he knew the state. And they could fix it later. As Peter Hines said, with the game on Game Pass, it's there forever. This video isn't targeting Forza specifically, because a lot of you were quite fixated on Forza. And I didn't quite understand that. I wasn't targeting Forza in general. I mean, if you look at the way Halo released, the multiplayer released bare bones as a beta, and they put the synonym beta on there just to kind of give an excuse that it's bare bones, so you can't say anything. But then you've got like the main campaign releasing, which had no co-op. I mean, I get how people feel about co-op, but for a Halo game, co-op is pretty much a basic feature since Halo 1, right? And to turn around and not have it, in my opinion, is really bad. In fact, it's one of the reasons I didn't play it. Because I sat down with a friend and played the whole of the Master Chief Collection, and we were ready for Infinite. And then Infinite announced that it wasn't going to have it. I agree with the roster that Game Pass currently has. They could only afford to hold games a bit to release them in better conditions, and in the long run it would benefit Game Pass reputation overall experience for everyone. That is what I was trying to get at. No one wants a Cyberpunk situation. No one wants these reviewers, because you know the reviewers are looking for any reason to dog on Xbox. You know that they're looking for absolutely any tiny little thing out of place to say, look, this is what they're doing, this is missing, this is missing. You know they're looking at it with a microscope, a telescope, to find that, 900 zoomed in pixel that was out of place. You know they're doing this, so why give them an easy ride? Right? I say your critiques of Game Pass are very valid, especially your thoughts on games being half-baked, but there's a flip side of this coin, which is that games are taking longer to make. We used to have 3 or 4 year development cycles. Now it's more like 5-6 years. And in the case of a game like Starfield, I think you mentioned 15 years. And I've even heard 25 years in the making or Bethesda's first new IP in 25 years. So Starfield started off as an idea 25 years ago with Todd Howard. And obviously the technology wasn't there for him to do what he wanted to do. But as the years went on, it became more and more into focus. And about 10-15 years ago, they started what's called pre-production of what they wanted the game to be. Now, after Skyrim ended in 2012-2013 development, that was the perfect time for them to sit down and say, look, right now, this is the opportunity we've been waiting for. This is our idea. They pitched it and they got it. But the actual original concept for Starfield came 25 years ago to Todd. Here's the thing, don't even listen to reviews if you're interested in it. I want to try it. I mean, I agree with this because there's so many games that people have rated 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, and I've absolutely loved them. I've loved them. I'm not sure if any of you remember a PlayStation 1 game called Battle Arena Toshinden. It was supposed to be the Tekken killer. It obviously killed itself. But Battle Arena Toshinden was one of those games that I really, really enjoyed. It came out alongside A Dead or Alive, where 3D fighters were actually just being poured out. I really enjoyed it. It was a game I thoroughly enjoyed. It died a miserable death, but I still enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, and I preferred it to Tekken. I think studios are under pressure because they've got calendar dates to release and they've got to try and meet the targets. With a game like Forza, they've always added content later with updates. That's true, but missing career mode is not right. Right? The career mode is there, but it's not fleshed out at all. It's really basic. And split screen should just have not been mentioned at all. Just why mention it entirely? Just ignore it for the time being. Bringing out games, whether they're ready or not, will not help Game Pass. You're using games that had unique circumstances to make your point. They delayed Halo a year, and it still wasn't ready, so why release it? It was missing co-op, it was missing Forge, it was missing all sorts of things. Starfield, I nitpicked Starfield, that's correct. Redfall was just broken at launch. I mean, to say that Redfall, they did right to release Redfall, that's just stupid, right? Wouldn't have helped. Delaying Redfall again wouldn't have helped them fix the issues. Well, 6 months down the line, and they have fixed the issues. We've got 60 FPS, the AI seems to be a little better. They've added a lot of quality of life features to it, accessibility features to it that we're missing. So 6 months has made a massive difference to Redfall. So to say that it wouldn't make any difference is a bit disingenuous. I own an Xbox, the only reason I would even bother with Halo is to play split screen with friends, family, like the 360 days. Bingo, Team November. And that is the reason why we didn't play it at launch. I really wish Xbox would bring back the game Vex. It was originally on the Xbox and PlayStation 2, made by Acclaim. Brilliant open world puzzle game, fantastic music. If you like puzzle games, check out Cocoon. It's on Game Pass and it's absolutely brilliant. Starfield was ready to go, Motorsport got more time ready, Hi-Fi Rush was ready, and so were the rest. Hi-Fi Rush, like I said, was ready because no one knew it existed. It was a passion project that was being developed during developers' downtime, in their own time, and they basically got it to a point where it was ready for a demo, and then they showed the executives, hey look, this is what we've been working on in our spare time, what do you think? And the exec said, yeah, this looks great, keep working at it, make it happen. And so they were given the time, they were afforded the time they needed to make it complete, and they released it. The same thing happened with Pentiment. This one is saying that the reviews, Starfield deserved a 9 out of 10 minimum. I'm at the moment where I'm at with Starfield, there's times when I think it can easily hit a 9 out of 10, and then there's times where I think it can hit an 8 out of 10. So I think an 8.5 to 9 is about the right place there, depending on a thing. But I haven't finished the game yet because I'm just going through the side quests. I'm doing everything on my first playthrough. Those games were rushed out and needed more time. They should release early builds of the game that fans can pay up front at a cheaper price. That's never going to happen. Game Pass has nothing to do with it. Phil pushed back Halo Infinite by a year, and it wasn't ready. Starfield was ready for the most part. I think it was a time limitation that they had when they started working on it. They probably would have had to fundamentally change stuff and delay the game by a few years if they wanted to change anything, which is a shame. Media bias is always going to be a thing. Everything could be better. It seems like every game is something wrong with it when it releases, but only Xbox first party. I guess there's some truth to that. Cyberpunk is not linear. It's fully open world and more connected than Starfield. Visually, it's light years ahead of Starfield. I mean, it's visually light years ahead of any game out there, not just Starfield. Now, I do like Starfield, but I'm waiting for mods next year. If a game has a release date and it doesn't release, then because the game is not ready, everybody gets pissed off about it and bitch about it. So be damned if I do and damned if they don't. Well, at the end of the day, I'd rather they put their big boy pants on and turn around and say the game isn't ready for launch. We don't want to release it broken. We respect you having spent your money, so give us a little bit more time. I'm tired of people calling games incomplete because features isn't there that they think should be. This isn't entitled mentality. The features, if you add a career mode and it's not there, it's you know, turning around and saying that you're going to have co-op in Halo and then it's not there. That's not being entitled. That's literally wanting what you promised, what you said should be in the game. Wayne's World, I'll get back to you on that. The question I'm going to ask you first about Starfield, how long have you played it? It's very important. Didn't they work on Forza for 6 years, Halo Infinite for 10 years? They had plenty of time for these games, but games, as they say, are getting bigger and bigger, so they require more time. Game Pass effect is biased review bombs. Most of the time, I agree with this, but as we've seen, in my opinion, with Forza, because of the missing features, it hurt it. Split screen was relevant feature 20 years ago. It's not about it being relevant or not. It's the fact that the producer said it should have been there, but they didn't have time, so it's going to be there post-launch. Rename this channel to Pony Lounge. See, this actually upset me a lot. And he's actually made a number more statements that I don't understand why it's not showing, because it should show. I've actually put it on for everyone to see. But just because of this one video, everything I've done pro Xbox just goes out the window. Of course, the Sony paid media is anti-Xbox. Sorry, man, but completely disagree with your take on this. Is this the one yeah. To start with, review bomb or not, I'm tired of the narrative that 85 or any score in the 80s is a bad score. It's perfectly fine to disagree. I never said 85 was a bad score, or that it's tied directly to Game Pass. Games did release incomplete and broken. Anthem, Cyberpunk, even Final Fantasy 14 to name a few. But on a sub-service, they need games on there being pushed out to maintain subs. It's a different market. It will factor into games' release windows. Then it goes on to talk about Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, which I've already covered with you all. But, you know, they had the time they needed. Last gen it was bad when Xbox games were getting 70s, now it's getting 80s. And again, I didn't say 80 was a bad review. And not once did I say that, but I'm being told that I said 80 is a bad review. I usually agree with you, but on this you're wrong. You're entitled to your opinion. I think you've been around too many or watched too many pony shows. Like, I haven't sat down and watched a single PlayStation video, honestly. Outside of the showcases, not one. But I'm now being accused of jumping over to the Camp Blue side because I have an opinion that doesn't, you know, resonate with them or that they don't agree with. Forza Motorsport is fine. I agree, it is fine. Maybe it has some issues, but I haven't found any. I played for the racing and realism. Cyberpunk was effing broken and they took people's money, period. Now some year or two later, you all are kissing. I'm not kissing CD Projekt Red's butt, but the game is now good. If they went back and fixed the game for free and came back and released an update, you got to give credit where it's due, right? Over 40 hours and you still don't enjoy it, but that's fair enough then. Sorry to tell you, but nobody wants split screen anymore. It's, again, totally missed the point there. Plus, the Sony type AAA is not profitable for Sony anyway. We've agreed this, that, you know, even Jim Ryan said that it's not profitable. That's why they're looking at other revenues, especially PC. Stop blaming Game Pass for what has been essentially the norm long before Game Pass existed. I'm not saying it's not the norm. What I'm saying is that with Game Pass, they need to release a game every quarter. And if they don't, they run the risk of people unsubscribing. Because there's nothing new there for them to stay subscribed to. This also means that it becomes unattractive for new customers, which they want. So they need that game every quarter to be there in order to keep the service attractive, in order to keep people there. And this will factor into games releasing in a state that's not complete. That's pretty much all the comments. Let me know what you think. Has my view on this actually made anything a little more clear on what I actually meant by this? I wasn't criticizing Game Pass in itself. I just was looking at this in a way where it will factor into the reasons why certain games aren't releasing feature complete. I don't understand. I mean, dude, I've lost so many subs on that video. It's so hard to gain subscribers, but because of one negative view, it turned, you know, it just really, not only did it hurt me personally because of the way that they were attacking me, saying that I'm basically a pony and I'm basically secretly a PlayStation fanboy. I mean, I like PlayStation, I'm not gonna lie. I like the single player games. I love story based, you know, games. That's I've always been transparent about that. But I've always had a much more affinity to Xbox. It's, you know, when I used to go to the office at work, they actually got me a t-shirt that basically had the Xbox logo on there and said, here you go, this is all that's missing. Because everyone knew I had that affinity to Xbox. I always defended them. I always defended Game Pass. It became a running joke in the end. But I just felt like I needed to come on and make this stream because it just needed to be explained, because at the end of the day, when it comes to Game Pass, it is all about getting those subs. If they can't get the subs, the service suffers. If the service suffers, Game Pass disappears. In order to maintain, they get continuous subs. Whether the game is ready or not, it will be released because, as the slogan goes, and I hate to say it, it's good enough for Game Pass. Because you're only paying $10 a month. Or $11 a month, whatever Ultimate is. That's where, I mean, sorry, when I say $10, it's the UK price, not the American price. I know in the US it's like $17. But that's essentially it. Like, if anyone has any opinion or wants to ask a question or wants to, you know, talk about something I said that they strongly disagree with, now's your chance. Because I actually felt really bad after reading some of the comments and how I offended some of you on an opinion that I had. But in the end, a subscription service is only going to be working if it has the software to back it up. Third-party day ones are great, but it's not first-party. And most people subscribe for the first-party day one games. The third-party ones are an icing on the cake. No, it's not the Future of Starfield one. I actually privated it. It's this one here. But I'm gonna actually reactivate it because, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna reactivate it. So you're free to check the video out later, ice cold, and see for yourself. But that's basically it. I am going to re-enable it though. I just wanted to delist it because I didn't want this part of the stream being too long, because there's already enough questions here that I would needed to get through. And, well, as you can see, it is what it is. It's a 46-minute video that I'm going to upload. But hopefully that's got a lot of the points across. Hopefully that's answered your questions, and maybe you understand where I'm coming from a little bit clearer. I didn't say Game Pass is a shit service. It's the best service in gaming right now. But it also works on a different model. The model it works on is that it needs to be lucrative and it needs to be attractive. And the only way it can be lucrative and attractive is that it maintains that one game, first party, every quarter. And going forward, regardless of whether the game is ready or not, that is going to happen. And my question is, should Microsoft be doing that? Should they be sacrificing the quality of the game with the potential bad review just so they can hit that quota of a game a quarter, especially in a busy month like September and October, which is jam-packed with games? Did they really need to release Forza right now? You know, if Hellblade is not ready, would you all want Hellblade to come out with missing features? Or would you rather it gets delayed by 3 months or 6 months and actually releases feature complete and the game is ready to go? Me personally, I'd rather they delay it. I think if that comes out and the game gets a 9 out of 10 or a 9.5 out of 10 unanimously, it's not going to get it from the PlayStation fanboys. But if it gets it from every respectable outlet out there, it will still push it to 90 plus. Those sell Game Pass. Those sell subs. Those keep people subscribed. When people see a 7 out of 10, they're not inclined to waste their time on it, even though that 7 out of 10 could be the greatest game that they've ever played. That misconception is always going to be there, so why would they purposefully want to damage their own sales? Hopefully these first few first parties were rushed just to get things kicked off, and they'll bring complete games in the future. I forgot about Hellblade. I still got the first one to start. It's a brilliant game, dude. Absolutely brilliant. I loved it. It was fantastic. I'm a compulsive digital gamer. I will buy games, especially on offer. Yeah, I've become full digital myself. I only buy games thing. I guess features for me varies. Like, I liked Halo Infinite, played it, beat it, and came back when co-op was installed. I only wanted to play it with co-op, and the fact that it was missing meant I couldn't play it for a year. And I missed out on the hype because I just didn't want to experience it without playing with my friends. But that's gonna be, I'm gonna stop the recording there, and hopefully that has answered everyone's questions. If there's any other further questions you want to ask about this, feel free to just keep chatting about it and I will answer it. But we can now go back to Redfall.